This evening we will be reading a story, a children's story, from a Parents Magazine Press reading readiness book, The Mouse and the Lion, by Eve Titus, illustrated by Leonard Weisgard. Okay. So, we have the first picture, without any words. It's the lion and the little mouse and the cornstalk. Little mouse. Very little mouse. You can bring it closer if you want. Okay. For my son Richard, with all the love in the world.
Do you have a son, Richard?
There was once a mouse who wished to see the world of people. So he said farewell to his friends in the fields and set out in search of the city. There was once a lion who also wished to see the world of people. So he said farewell to his friends in the forest and set out in search of a city. Along a winding, rambling road they walked, first the mouse, and then, a few miles behind him, the lion. Neither knew of the other, nor that they shared the self-same wish to visit the world of people. The lion, walking down the road. He's got a great face. Now it chanced that a kind fairy flew by and looked down at the little mouse. Where he was going was no secret to one with magical powers. Sadly, she said to herself, "Oh, the pity of it. This poor mouse will be filled with fear at his first sight of people. To him they will appear as great giants, with voices like thunder. Voices that thunder like mighty waterfalls." Not like that. And what if he should be stepped on by mistake? Tears rushed to her eyes at the dreadful thought. How can I help this helpless creature, this helpless mouse? She asked herself, and the answer came at once. Waving her hand in the air, she whispered, "In the eyes of all people who look upon him, this mouse will appear larger than the largest lion." And away the fairy flew to meet her godmother. So here's the picture. The fairy and the little mouse. She's got a very nice dress. Little mouse. But a bit further along, she spied the lion. Where he was going was no secret to her either. Sadly, she said to herself, "Oh, the pity of it. These poor people will be filled with fear at their first sight of an uncaged lion. To them he will appear terrifying with his fierce, ferocious roar and his strong, sharp claws, even though he means no harm to anyone." Tears rushed to her eyes at the terrible thought. How can I help these helpless people? She asked herself, and the answer came at once. Waving her wand in the air, she whispered, "In the eyes of all people who look upon him, this lion will appear smaller than the smallest mouse." Then her eyes twinkled. There'll be many a mix-up today. And the fairy flew right out of this book. And away the fairy flew right out of this book. There's the lion. He's so cute. He looks kind of confused, like he kind of feels a little funny. Like he's had a spell on him that makes him appear smaller than the smallest mouse. All right. Meanwhile, the mouse had halted before a country school. Two boys with their backs to him were in the yard, banging blackboard erasers together. Eager to get a good look at these large creatures, he crept close and breathed in some of the chalk dust. I simply mustn't sneeze," he told himself. But his nose wriggled, his whiskers waggled, and out came an achoo! Startled, the two boys turned around and stared straight into the eyes of what seemed to be the world's most enormous mouse. They dropped their erasers and ran inside, screaming, "Mouse monster! Mouse monster! Everybody hide!" It's a little mouse, and he looks like a big mouse. The mouse was puzzled. Well, people are peculiar. Why should such giants flee from a midget like myself? Are these the brave, clever creatures of whom we mice have heard such fine tales? Still, it may be that not all are cowards. I shall seek people who are more like people. And he scurried out of the schoolyard. When the boys began screaming, everyone in the school ran to the windows and expected to see some weird monster. Naturally, there was no one in sight. The two boys were told to stop fibbing, to skip recess, and to write this sentence 500 times. A mouse is not a monster. I don't know how they're ever going to get 500 lines on one chalkboard. They'll have to start writing really small. There's the little mouse sitting on the log.
This is not a monster.
Two by two, the other students marched outside, wearing their brightest smiles. For recess is always a favorite subject. Soon they were all busy playing. Some walked, some ran, some skipped, some hopped, some jumped, some fell, and some actually stood still. It was just about then. Here they are. Some jumping and running and falling and some standing still. That the lion arrived. Edging up to the iron fence, he said, "At last, people! Rather smaller than I expected, but pleasant enough, full of energy, too. They scarcely ever stop moving. But why on earth do they walk on their hind legs? Walking on all fours would be far more sensible. And isn't it time that they took notice of me, a mighty lion? I shall try to attract their attention." Deciding that his regular roar would frighten them too much, he poked his nose through the bars and gave a low, little ghost of a growl. It attracted attention, all right, but not the kind he had in mind. There's the three of them standing still. A first-grade girl bent down and said, "Girls, girls, look at this teeny-weeny lion." "Isn't he precious?" said another. "The little doll. I'd like to do his hair up in curlers, and dress him in pink pajamas and pink hair bows, and wheel him around in my best doll carriage." The first girl stamped her foot. "I found him. He'll use my doll's curlers and my doll's house, and he'll live in my doll's house. So there." "I must be imagining things," thought the lion. My forest animals quake and shake if I so much as hiccup. Don't these people recognize the king of the beasts? I'll roar my loudest roar, and see them scarter than leaves in the autumn wind. Yeah, and see them scatter like leaves in an autumn wind. Here he is, the teeny-weeny lion. And all the girls looking at him. But the girls giggled when he roared, and one said, "Such a loud, ugly sound from such a sweet pet. How I wish I could teach him to purr." Just then the whistle blew. Recess was over. "I'll put him in my pocket," said the first girl, and reached between the bars, but he backed away. Better bet he did. With his heart pounding like 100 hammers, the lion raced towards the road. These creatures couldn't be people, he told himself. No doubt they were beings from another planet. Hadn't his father said that all people feared lions? So once again, he followed the winding, rambling road. he's so cute. I just can't get over how cute this lion is. I'm like, it's just very, very good job. Very, very well done. The mouse, meanwhile, was further along the road, admiring a magnificent white marble building, the Museum of Natural History. He knew nothing of museums, but it looked so elegant that he entered one of the mouse holes in the rear. There, a mouse he met thought he sought food and invited him to luncheon at the museum restaurant. Politely he refused, explaining why he had come. "So you want to see people," said the other. "How dull. Still, each to his own taste. Plenty of people come here. But for your real reward, try the second floor. Big cats. Tigers, leopards, and others, looking so alive. But all as dead as can be. What a beautiful sight." Oh. Here's the museum. Big white and gray museum. And here is the little mouse. And the mouse from the museum. Talking. That's my stick. "Wouldn't miss it for the world," said the visitor, and dashed upstairs at once. How truly his new friend had spoken. He had a fine view of a great hall, and at its other end, behind a wall of glass, were several enormous cats. There they stood, as large as life, unable to lift a paw. Tears of joy streamed down his cheeks. "How lifelike! How very lifelike!" he exclaimed. Here's the cats, this leopard. The way it sits like that is exactly how a cat sits. And it's a panther, the baby leopard, the tiger, and the people watching. That's a big tiger, but I suppose the tiger's that big. And then little mouse. "How very lifelike," said a voice in his ear. He nodded, thinking that his friend had followed, but then he noticed two people staring at him. Trembling to the tip of his tail, he stood there. "It's a new exhibit," said one. "Do you suppose there were once mouse monsters on Earth?" Could it be that they had meant him? Ridiculous! Yet he did not dare to move. They were watching. To make matters worse, some leftover chalk dust began to tickle his nose. He put his paw over his mouth, but it was no use. His head bobbed back and forth in a funny way, and out slipped not one, not two, but 3 sneezes. Achoo! 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 People being very frightened. There's the enormous mouse monster. Ew! It's alive! Mouse monster! Run for your lives! What a hustle, what a bustle, what a hurry, what a flurry. It was like a 5-alarm fire. People ran this way and that way, and that way and this way. They scrambled for the doors, and even climbed out the windows, trying to escape from what they believed to be the world's largest mouse. All the people running. Everyone running. Running. All directions, as fast as they could go. The hall was soon empty of people. The mouse made a face. "Enough is enough. I've had my fill of these fraidy cats. It's time to go home." And down the nearest mouse hole he dashed, mumbling under his breath, "If those are people, then I'm glad I'm a mouse." Later, the lion approached the deserted building, as though also impressed by its beauty. What he knew about natural history museums could be written on the head of a pin, but he entered. Inside, he saw steps curving gracefully upwards, a stairway fit for a king, he thought, and took the white marble steps two at a time. Alas for the lion, the steps led to the second floor. There's the little mouse leaving, saying, whatever. There's the lion going up the stairs. Big smile on his face. First to meet his eyes was an old enemy, a tiger with whom he had fought many battles and whom had vanished mysteriously some time ago. Now the tiger was a helpless prisoner, standing motionless behind a wall of glass, one paw poised in midair. The wall was so high and so thick that it had no beginning or ending. The lion grew greatly afraid. If this was what people did to tigers, what terrible thing would they do to lions? He must leave at once, this very minute, this very second, before it was too late. And he bounded down the stairway, 6 steps at a time. There's the lion. He's so cute. And there's the tiger with his paw poised in midair. Got great eyes. But before he reached the door, a museum guard entered. The lion cowered and cringed, wondering where to hide. "I cannot believe my eyes," said the guard. "I've never seen a so small a lion. Dr. Leonardo, our lion specialist, will be delighted. I'll place the lion on his desk, in a little cage." That was all the lion needed to hear. Tucking his tail between his legs, he whizzed out of the way. He whizzed out and away. Osa? Osa, come. Good girl. On the road, he fairly leaped along, his huge paws raising clouds of dust. And as luck would have it, him, the little lion, he's so cute. It's him running away. Run, 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 run. His paw struck something soft, the mouse. The lion picked him up and dusted him off, saying, "Forgive me. I'd never dream of hurting a mouse, nor would any lion or lioness I know. We will remember that long ago time when one of yours saved the life of one of ours." "My fault," said the mouse. "Wasn't watching the road. I'm overtired, just visiting the world of people." "You too?" asked the lion. "What happened?" The mouse shrugged. "You wouldn't believe it. Imagine, they were afraid of me, a mere mouse." "Afraid of you?" the lion replied. "Impossible. They're as brave as lions, even braver." "Come now," said the surprised mouse. "You're joking, aren't you?" There's the lion picking up the little mouse. The lion thought, "Why should I be ridiculed or run the risk of losing my throne? No one must know how I fared in the world of people." So he said quickly, "Of course, I was joking. Let me give you a lift home, little mouse. But first tell me this, do you fear me?" "Who doesn't?" replied the mouse. "Aren't you our king, the bravest, strongest, wisest animal in the world?" "Climb aboard," commanded the king, smiling. The lion's long strides shortened the way to the end of the winding, rambling road. The mouse was met by friends who clapped and cheered to see him sliding down the lion's tail. He lived happily thereafter. And of one thing you may be sure, never again did he visit the world of people. Oh, forget. Okay, there's a lion. He's sliding down the tail, and there's his nice friends to greet him. The lion hurried homeward through the fields. At the edge of the forest were animals from far and near gathered there to give the lion a truly royal welcome, as was proper and fitting for the king of the beasts. He lived happily thereafter, and of one thing you may be sure, never again did he visit the world of people. There's all the animals welcoming him. The giraffes, the elephant, monkey, and the hippo. They even have confetti. Here's the lion, probably thinking about how he'll never again visit the world of people. And there we have it. Oh, one more page. As for the people who had seen the mouse and the lion, they all talked for the next 10 or 20 years about the mouse, who was larger than the largest lion, and the lion, who was smaller than the smallest mouse. Here's them talking about how big it was. Both a mouse and a lion set out for the city to see the world of people, when a kind fairy endows each of them with the attributes of the other. Strange things happen. Alright. Hope you have enjoyed. Good evening and good night.